How's it going, everybody? It's Steve from Broken Galaxy, and welcome to this week's episode of Push Start to Listen, where we take a look back at the week in video game news. And there was a ton of it this week, especially this morning. A whole bunch got dumped all over the video game landscape, thanks to excellent reporting by Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get right into it. This morning, a big story from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg came out talking about perhaps some turmoil going on within Sony. And it's been picked up, it's been spread all over the place. Reddit is full of threads dedicated to it. Twitter was ablaze all day today. Multiple things were trending out of it. And I think for a lot of people, the takeaway was that at some point, a Last of Us 1 remake was being worked on. It seems like that actually might be happening again, although with a different team. There could have been a potential sequel to Days Gone that was canceled. And at one point, there was perhaps an Uncharted 1 remake going on, all of which happening from Bend Studio, the studio best known for doing Days Gone. And I think that that's certainly interesting. You know, those are all valid things that excite people of different kind of, I don't want to say genres, but kind of, you know, you have some people that were Days Gone fans, people that are Last of Us fans, some people that are Uncharted fans, and people that kind of loop all together between the three of them. For me, though, what I want to talk about is the kind of scrutiny that Sony's strategy is getting. And I think if you look at Sony and Microsoft together, and I always look at Sony and Microsoft together, and Nintendo is off to the side. Nintendo does their own thing. They are a profitable company. They know what sells for them, and they go off and do it. Now, that's not to say they're not without their faults. I can spend an entire day talking about things that Nintendo should do that probably never will, and it's the amount of wasted money in that regard is insane, but you know, that's a topic for a different day. But it's become pretty clear over the past couple of years, and especially with the news last week about Xbox grabbing The Show 21 to be released day and date on Game Pass. That's a game that was formerly a Sony exclusive. It's developed by Sony. And you can see that their strategy is Game Pass. I truly believe, and you can call me wrong, but I truly believe that Microsoft does not care if they sell you an Xbox Series X console or an Xbox Series S console. I don't think they care at all whether or not they sell you a console. I think what they care about is that you have Game Pass, or you have a combination of Game Pass and the xCloud to be able to stream those games and play them. Whether you have Game Pass for PC, Game Pass for console, it doesn't really matter. That's their focus. They just want you playing their games. They want you on their service. They want you a part of their ecosystem. They would rather get a smaller amount of money from you every single month than maybe get that $500 for a system every 5 to 6 years, right? And it's not a bad business decision because xCloud could theoretically launch and do very well in countries that don't have easy access to consoles. So that's just untapped market, that's untapped money that could be big for them. Sony, on the other hand, has kind of shifted very much to what I would say is the Nintendo way of doing things. You have your tentpole franchises, and you focus on them. You get a new IP here and there. We've certainly not had any lack of new IP over the past few years alone. Days Gone was new, Ghost of Tsushima was new, Spider-Man was new. Those are three very well received, for the most part, games. I think that Spider-Man is one of the best games to come out in the past decade, but you know, that's personal opinion. They're focusing on an almost movie studio-like approach. Let's pool all of our resources into getting a handful of AAA, high dollar amount to produce, yet yield high dollar amount return games. And that's our bread and butter. And that's what we're going to focus on, and that's what we're going to do. That's what Nintendo does. It doesn't seem like it, because when you think of like these big AAA blockbuster games, you think of maybe perhaps something a little bit more gritty or something a little bit more dirty, you know, like a Last of Us and Uncharted. And you don't think of like a Mario or a Zelda. But those are what those are. Nintendo makes very high quality, typically single player games, whether they're story driven like a Zelda or they're just gameplay driven like a Mario. And I think at this point in time, Mario has kind of fractured and split off, right? You have like your Super Mario 3D Land, which is very, very different than like a Super Mario Galaxy or a Mario Odyssey. I think the Mario Odyssey style game, the 3D platformer, that has become the mainline Mario. And those move units, those sell Switches. They sell a lot of copies. And that's what Sony has kind of fallen into. Let's focus on something that Microsoft isn't doing. Microsoft isn't offering AAA, single-player, narrative-driven, gritty, whatever you want to call them, experiences. They have other things. And that's fine. From a on-paper standpoint, that's fine. You always want to be different. You want to be doing something different than your competitor is doing. Think about how bad it got for a while, where it just felt like, what is the point of having a different system? Because everything just comes out on everything. There was a lull in big exclusives. Of course, Sony still had their stuff, Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper and all that. And Microsoft had Halo and Gears of War. And at one point, you could argue that Microsoft was actually making better first-party games. And that stopped real quick. It didn't take long for that to stop. So on paper, yeah, you want to do something different. Company A is doing this, then Company B is going to do that. That works. But you have to start looking at the intangibles. And frankly, no matter what side you are on, Microsoft is destroying everybody with Game Pass. There was only a matter of time until a Netflix-like video game service was going to be launched. And I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a third party. It was going to be somebody that came along and said, okay, let's just get a bunch of multi-platform franchises, put them on here, and then off you go. Or maybe it would be something that's PC-focused because, then it doesn't really matter because so much stuff releases on PC. It'd be that way. I think it was kind of a shock that it was a big company like Microsoft being like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to give away all of our first-party games as part of this package, which, it's hard to even tell you right now how much Game Pass costs. I think I pay $15 a month, and that's for the Xbox Live, the Game Pass, and Game Pass for PC. I think that's what I pay. I honestly don't know. It could be a lot less. I know people that have it for years at like $1 a month. It's such an insane value proposition. It is crazy. My wife started playing video games really recently. I actually talked about that in the first episode of this show, and she went a very long time without having to step foot into a video game store to think about what she wanted to buy next. Game Pass offered her so much to start with. And I think for people that have been playing video games for a while, or maybe try and play everything that comes out, or at least kind of the big things that come out, you maybe lose sight a little bit of the kind of value that Game Pass offers. Even just from a perspective of like treating it like a rental store. Rental stores are mostly gone. Locally, we had one hanging on until last year and COVID took it out. So it's gone now. But it's great. And honestly, I didn't really rent games. I typically just buy games and I trade them in and, do that whole loop. I'm just used to doing that. But I still really liked renting movies. I used to go every week and rent movies, sometimes more than once. Even with having, Netflix and Hulu and all that, on my television, I still liked the idea of going to a movie store. But that's just me, that's not for everybody. But renting games cost so much more than a movie. You can pay your $20 for a DVD, maybe $24.99 for a Blu-ray, but you're paying $60 and now $70 for a video game. And that video game could be just like trash garbage. At least with movie reviews, you can kind of be like, okay, I kind of get where they're going. You kind of feel it out. And these days, to really get an accurate opinion, you can only trust so many places that are doing reviews, and some of the best places that were doing game reviews either aren't anymore or have switched to kind of a new system where they don't score a game, which is fine. You don't have to score a game, but it requires that person then read the entire article to kind of get the gist of what the reviewer was talking about, and I'm sure that there are plenty of people that can talk about retention rates when reading articles online. So then what's the next best part? Well, you can go to Giant Bomb and watch a quick look, and you can see actual people playing the game. You can go on Twitch and watch an actual person play the game. But even on Twitch and YouTube, sometimes it's tough. What if there's money being exchanged to maybe paint that game in a positive light? Now, most of your bigger streamers probably aren't doing that because if word gets out, then they kind of lose the trust with their audience. But there are plenty of people that will be like, yeah, I'll paint you a positive review. Look at the PC component review landscape. You'll see plenty of examples of companies strong-arming smaller YouTubers and streamers to give their products a good review, or at least paying them to not post a bad review. It 100% happens. So Game Pass offers you that experience to be like, I can try this game. All it's taking out of my life is the amount of time to install it and however much I want to spend playing it. And then I can find out if it's good or bad. So it's difficult, you're asking to pay $70 for a game that you don't know if it's good or not. And for Sony, yeah, if it's coming out of Naughty Dog, it's probably pretty good. And you feel okay spending that $70. But if it's a brand new IP from maybe a lesser known studio or a brand new studio, you're taking a risk. And $70 is a huge risk, because you take that $70 and then what's GameStop going to give you? 25, 30? Maybe you have a local store that gives you a little bit more. It's still half. You know, that's like buying a car and trying to sell it the next day back to the dealership. They're going to be like, you know, we'll give you half. You know, it doesn't matter. You put 1 mile on it. So yeah, it's really interesting to see these two companies really kind of focus their strategies on very, very specific things. I know I've been rambling on for a while about this. I'm going to wrap it up with one more thing, and that's that while it's okay for Sony to have this strategy and to have this game plan of focusing on these single-player games, if it starts to alienate your own employees to the point where they start leaving, because that is what came out today. There was a whole studio of people that just left Sony. They work somewhere else now. Sony lost that talent. If you have a company like Bend and you tell them no, maybe, I guess, how long is it going to be until the people that are working there are going to be like, you know what, I don't need this anymore. I can probably find something somewhere else. Sony is playing a very fine game right now. They are quite literally on the razor's edge, because on one side is tremendous success, critical accolades, and millions of copies sold, and on the other side could potentially be a bunch of unhappy employees. And what happens with unhappy employees? You get lesser quality games. What happens if Sony keeps making lesser quality games when they're hyper-focused on just a handful of experiences every year? They start losing to Microsoft. Microsoft, I honestly don't think care if they lose to Sony. They are playing a different game. They are on a separate set of chessboards right now. But Sony, I think, cares very much whether or not they lose to Microsoft. Something to keep in mind. With that rambling mess out of the way, let's talk about E3 is returning this year as a digital-only event, and it totally makes sense. I have gone on for as long as I can hold my breath to speak to say that E3 is important, maybe not perhaps E3 itself, but the idea of a centralized location in the middle of the year for video game companies to come together and announce new products. That is still important. I love the fact that E3 is coming back this year. They've got Nintendo on board. They've got Microsoft on board. Sony isn't, but maybe they show up. You know, they said that there are more to come. So it's nice to see everybody kind of, you know, let's get the band back together. Let's make a bunch of big announcements in the middle of the year. It's a very nice palate cleanser, especially because this year, there might not be a lot coming out. This is going to be the year where you see all the effects of last year, all the effects of everybody working from home. All of that is going to come out this year, and there's probably going to be a far less amount of video games releasing throughout the year. We've already seen some big delays happen, one of which I'm about to talk about soon. And yeah, it's going to help people get re-excited. You know, if there's not much coming out between now and the summer when E3 happens, yeah, it gives people time to catch up, but it also builds an anticipation. People want to know, okay, I get it. You know, there's not going to be a lot coming out this year. Show me what is coming out this year and show me what's coming out next year, and I can start getting excited, because that's what people want. People want to be excited about video games. It's fun. Video games are supposed to be fun. There's always so much doom and gloom. It's nice to have an event that focuses on, hey, this stuff is cool, and this is what's coming out, and here's when you can play it. And I still think that that's important. I'm glad other people do too, and I very much welcome E3 back to the fold coming this summer as a digital-only event. Just a quick follow-up from a story from last week where Microsoft announced that the Show 21, the baseball game developed by Sony, would be coming to the Xbox on Game Pass, of all things. Sony has come out and said that it was Major League Baseball that made the decision for that to happen, and I think that that's a no-brainer. Everybody can determine that. I don't think there was anybody at Sony that was like, you know what we need to do? We need to take this $70 game that we're having our customers buy and just give it away for next to nothing on Xbox. I don't think that ever really crossed their mind. Major League Baseball is, no pun intended, playing hardball with this. They don't necessarily want to be locked into an exclusivity agreement with Sony for whatever reason. Maybe they just figured, hey, we can sell more copies if it's on more systems, and Sony, if you still want this, you're going to have to play ball with that. Again, no pun intended. I got them all night. A ton of baseball puns for... I can hit them, you know, I can hit a lot of those curveballs. I need to stop doing this. It may, you know, it's no surprise that this is coming from Major League Baseball and not from Sony. It's really one of those things where it's like, hey, if you want to hang on to this thing that you're making, you need to, you gotta do what we ask. Honestly, I kind of wish other leagues would maybe follow suit. That's not to say, NBA 2K is on every system, but maybe be like, do we really want to have this thing exclusive? What if we allow another company to make a basketball game? Maybe it wouldn't be riddled with really terrible microtransactions. I mean, of course it's going to be, because that's the way video games are made these days in terms of sports games. But boy, it'd be nice to maybe have somebody besides EA make a football game. Somebody besides Visual Concepts to make a basketball game. Somebody besides EA to make a hockey game. With baseball, though, this one makes sense. It doesn't really seem like there was anybody like stepping up, being like, "Hey, we'll make a baseball game." I don't think that that's the case. I honestly think that's a testament to how good the show is. If you've never played it and you're not interested in sports games, think of a game that you really like because it's really, really good. I mean, that's what that is. It is an elite level video game. It just happens to be a baseball game. So yeah, who knows what happens? I'm sure next year the game's going to come out on everything again. They still said that there's going to be more systems that the show is coming out on. That could be PC. Sony is definitely laxed up on, letting things out on PC. But I think probably the bigger story is when the initial announcement was made that the show would be coming to platforms other than Sony, Nintendo was tweeting about it. So I think at some point you're going to see a Switch port, whether maybe at the All-Star game this year, one for this year gets announced, but probably more than likely it's going to be next year. But hey, more baseball games for more people, more opportunity to play the game. It's a great game. I welcome it. I'm paying the $70 for it because I don't really have a choice. I have a PS5, not an Xbox Series X. So, it sucks for me, but hey, that's awesome for the people that have Game Pass. The upcoming Bethesda Sony exclusive Deathloop has been delayed until September 14th. It was coming out in just a few short weeks. It's getting pushed back. This is going to be the name of the game this year. There's going to be a lot of stuff that either you haven't heard about that was maybe supposed to come out already that is coming out later, or stuff that you have heard about that's going to get pushed back later on in the year. That's just the way it is. Last year's development studios were scrambling to figure out how to adapt to working from home. Some teams adapted to it real fast, I'm sure. Some teams struggled real hard, I'm sure. And some teams just, it just took a while. It was different. It was hard to get used to doing things. If you're working as a team, it's so much easier to work as a team in person than it is over a Zoom call or text chat of some sort, using Microsoft Teams or something like that. This is going to be very common this year. I think that everybody that's working on the game over at Arcane, they are probably, we'd rather ship a good game than ship a bad game. And I think a lot of people at the same time would be like, yeah, no, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, it sucks that we're not getting the game when we wanted it, but sure, rather play a good game rather than a bad game. And, there's probably less and less of the people arguing about, no, I want it now. You should have put it out now. Give me what I want. Because look at what happened last year with Cyberpunk. And I know I keep bringing that up, but I mean, it's such a crazy example. I think with everything that's going on in terms of not just video game news, but news in general, it really gets overlooked how much of a cluster the whole situation with Cyberpunk was, and how much that really is going to change how video game development is done in terms of like scheduling and announcements and marketing and all that stuff. So yeah, good on Arcane, good on Bethesda. Let's wait it out. Let's just push it back, and it'll be good. It'll be a good, nice game for everybody to enjoy, and I think that that's a much better situation all around. I've brought up a couple of times what I've been playing lately, and I've actually been playing some video games this week. I've had the time to do it. Not playing anything super new. I've been playing a ton of PGA 2K21, last year's golf game that came out. It was on sale last weekend, so I picked it up, and I've played a ton of it. It's actually been really nice, relaxing game. I can put it on mute and watch, YouTube or Netflix or what have you on my phone and just kind of sit back and relax. I've actually been spending most nights playing that game while watching baseball on my phone, and it's been pretty good. It's a good game. I like it. It's definitely got some problems, not gameplay wise, just presentation wise and kind of content wise. It needs a little bit more, but this year 2 golf games coming out, competition should hopefully make it better. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with that. I've been playing Spider-Man again. I finished Miles Morales, and I was like, oh, let me fire up Spider-Man Remastered and just see what it looks like. I really didn't anticipate playing all the way through because I had Ghost of Tsushima ready to go. I played like an hour of Ghost of Tsushima, but then I had to like start cooking dinner. There's something that kind of took me away from it. And I haven't gone back to it because I've just been playing Spider-Man so much, that and PGA, and a little bit of Fire Pro Wrestling World in there. But yeah, Spider-Man is just so good. I was thinking about it when I was playing it last night, that I really think it's kind of, at this point, I think it might have cracked my top 10 favorite games of all time. It's just so good, and it's just so fun, and I haven't gotten this into a game in a really long time. I typically don't play games more than once. For a story-based game, I play it once, and then that's it. Stuff like GTA, I've played the story of GTA 5 4 or 5 times at this point. I played Red Dead 2 twice, and I'm playing Spider-Man twice. It's like really few and far between when I do it. It takes a lot for me to want to do it. And sometimes I'll go back, if the game came out like 5-6 years ago, then, I've forgotten enough about it that I'll play through it again. But yeah, it's been cool. A couple of things did come out this week. Pac-Man 99 on the Switch. I haven't had a chance to play it yet. It's been a really busy week. We have, as a family here in the house, a really busy couple of weeks coming up. We're doing a lot of work on the house, and actually at some point that's going to involve us not having any electricity, so it's going to be much harder to play video games. But it's all for the better good. I would much rather have air conditioning than be able to play video games, for a short amount of time. And then the new Oddworld came out, Soulstorm. I downloaded it and I played it tonight, and it's fine. It is what it is. If you've played an Oddworld game before, it's an Oddworld game. It looks great. It looks really nice. It's a little clunky, and I haven't played one in a while. I didn't play the new and tasty, the remake. So I don't know if maybe this is just adapting the same controls as they had. And honestly, thinking back to the late 90s, early 2000s, the last time I played an Oddworld game, I couldn't tell you if I thought it was clunky back then. As a kid, everything's great. It doesn't matter. But with this one, yeah, there's just a few times where you press the button and it just doesn't happen. You press X twice to double jump and press it twice, and sometimes you double jump and sometimes you don't. There was a patch that I had to download today, so maybe those are known issues and it'll get fixed. But yeah, if you like Oddworld, I think you'd probably like this. It looks really nice. It plays, for the most part, 90% of the time plays perfectly fine. But yeah, it's kind of a cool thing to come out. It's on PlayStation Plus. So if you have PlayStation Plus, check it out. At least download it, and it's something new. With stuff getting delayed, not a lot of stuff coming out right now, it's a really nice game to kind of step back and be like, hey, maybe this is a little bit different than something I would typically play, but maybe that's what I need right now, and do that. I'll definitely be playing Pac-Man 99 this weekend. I'm really looking forward to playing that. It looks like it's got some of the mechanics from Championship Edition, which I loved. I played the hell out of that game. My God, I was addicted to that for a while. So yeah, it's nice to be able to play some stuff. I think I'm probably going to fire up some Hitman 3. New Elusive Target is out today, I believe. If it's not today, then it's like Monday. And it's on the Dartmoor map, which is a good map to do it on. I'm looking forward to checking that out. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to play Spider-Man until I finish it. Start up Ghost of Tsushima after the first hour and a half or so that I played, and try and get through that. And then the show comes out on the 20th, and I'll be playing a ton of that every day. So yeah, it's a nice little break to play something a little bit different, something maybe a little bit more relaxing. Spider-Man to me is a relaxing game. Ghost of Tsushima so far has been a little stressful, and I get the feeling that it's just gonna be like a game that's not so much. That's a game you're not slouching back in your chair to play. That's a game you're focused on the TV to play, and sometimes we need some of those games. But yeah, let me know what you guys have been playing. I'd love to hear what everybody's doing with this time to kind of, catch up on games that have come out, maybe even over the past year, getting around to finally doing some of that stuff. I've talked in the last couple of videos about next video that's kind of like a longer form video that I've been working on. That was supposed to be out this week. I had every intention of having that come out this week. It is pretty much done. At literally within probably the last 2 hours I would have had working on that video, if I had continued going in another 2 hours, it would have been done. I found out that some of my research was horribly incorrect, and I got it from a reputable website. I think it was just an honest mistake, but I had to go back. I had to re-record voiceover, rewrite part of the script, and that was a big setback. But I don't have too much going on over the next few days, so I should be able to get that done. I'd really like to get that out next week, although next week is going to be a little bit difficult. We are without electricity for part of next week, so we'll see how it goes in terms of getting that put up. But yeah, we'll go from there. I'm looking forward to having it out. I've already got the next one started because I want there to be less time in between the longer form videos. And yeah, I think I'm going to try and do some of the toy pickup stuff more regularly. I actually just picked up a bunch of vinyl, so perhaps I toss up, a vinyl pickups video, just to try and get more than just, the one video a week on the channel. I think that's that'd be good for me personally, to have more to work on, more to put into this channel. And I think that it'll be fun. I like doing this, So I hope everybody has a good week. Thank you once again for joining me on Push Start to Listen, and I'll see you again very soon.